Welcome back to the Bryan Devore Connection. I'm your host, Bryan Devore. Unfortunately, reverse mortgages have a bad name. Kind of rightly so, because in the past they weren't so good for people, and a lot of people got into some problems with them. The good news is they're a much better program now, and here to talk to us about reverse mortgage and some of the past pitfalls and some of the new benefits of reverse mortgage is my friend, my colleague, and my client, Christina Harmes. Christina, thanks for coming today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So we've done a lot of work together in the past before, and you are the expert when it comes to reverse mortgage. In fact, you coach people on reverse mortgage. So how did you get into this industry?
I actually started my dad's office when I was 16. Now, he was just a regular mortgage broker. When I was about 24, we did our very first reverse mortgage together. And at the closing table, the wife hugged me, and she was crying. And as I hugged her, I could feel just this huge sense of relief wash over her. And I thought, wow, I've done a lot of mortgages before, but I've never seemed to have an impact like this on someone's life. It was absolutely life-changing. We took away a huge debt they had. We got them money every single month. We set up a growing line of credit so that they had a safety net. And if her husband passed, which was one of the concerns, she would be fine to remain in her home for as long as she lived. And when he passed, some of his income was going to go with him. And so we protected her in all those various ways. And I thought, wow, what is this? I need more. And so I dove in and I turned my whole career towards reverse.
Wow, that's amazing. So you brought up a couple good points, some of the nuts and bolts. We'll talk about that in just a minute. As I mentioned in the onset, some of the reverse mortgages from long ago, weren't such good products, and people kind of got into some trouble. What were some of the pitfalls that people might have gotten involved with?
Great question. So not only were there more products of reverse mortgages back in the day, there were more companies doing them, different structures. That kind of went away. So the main product today is the HECM, the FHA. It's FHA insured. One of the other big things that we saw was that prior to 2015, people didn't have to qualify. If you had, and this is a joke in the industry, if you had enough equity, you had a pulse, and you're ready to sign, well, let's get you into that reverse mortgage. So what happens? That attracts people who can't actually afford to stay in their home. They can't pay their taxes and insurance. They can't pay their homeowners, their tax insurance, their homeowners insurance, and any HOA they might have. Now we have qualifying standards. So that's a huge change in today's reverse mortgage. The other thing is they used to lend a whole lot more money. So it's kind of a double-sided sword. So people are upset about why can't I borrow more, but then we have equity left in the property for heirs, and they're very happy about that. And so that was a couple of the really big changes. Another one is spouses that were too young didn't used to be protected. Now we have a provision called the non-borrowing spouse provision. And what that does is if a spouse is too young and they're not a full-blown borrower, they are still protected, and they have the option to defer the mortgage payment if and when the borrower does pass. And there's multiple things. Another one is counseling. Now we require the couples or the reverse mortgage borrower to go to a third-party HUD counselor and get a counseling certificate before you can move forward. So really make sure that we have an educated borrower in the right fit. If they don't qualify, if there's not enough equity, then it means a reverse mortgage isn't a good fit. And thank goodness today we can't do them. In the past, it might not have been a good fit, but you could still do them.
Right. Well, and you said a couple good important things there. Number one, FHA insured. And so that means that, the government is behind it. And so people aren't going to just, run away. Sounds like, some of the loans that were being done were sort of like what was being done that led up to the mortgage meltdown, in 2007, 2008. If you could fog a mirror, you could get a regular loan. Kind of the same thing with reverse mortgage. And I had some clients who unfortunately took out a reverse mortgage that probably shouldn't have, and it wound up the balance being higher than what their home was worth. Yeah. But it sounds like there's some protections in there now where that's really not going to happen. And I know some people were concerned, I don't want to do a reverse mortgage because I'll lose my house, and the heirs won't get the home afterwards. But that's not really an issue anymore.
It could be. It's just so far-fetched. You would have to live to be like 100, in most markets, assuming appreciating markets that we see today, you would have to live to be like 105, 110 for that situation to happen again, because again, If your home's value is $700,000, you used to be able to borrow like $550,000. Now that's much closer to like $300,000. So it's going to take a very long time. At the same time, the property's appreciating. So while the mortgage, you're not making payments, so it does grow, the balance is growing, but the appreciation is growing. So we actually see increased appreciation over the first 10, 15 years on most files.
Wow.
Bigger bigger appreciation than they had today, even with a reverse mortgage on the property.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. So
It
it's a
is.
great financial tool. So what are, we've talked about some, but what are some other benefits that people can use a reverse mortgage for?
I'm so glad you asked. So the home and home equity is the largest asset most people have at retirement age. A reverse mortgage is unique because it's so flexible. Regular mortgages, a lot of the time, you kind of have to fit into this box. With a reverse mortgage, it's really important that you're speaking with an expert who understands how to assess your situation so you can customize this loan to you and your needs. Do you need or want monthly income? It's not technically income, and it's not taxed as income too. That's a really cool benefit.
Okay.
But do you need more money each month? Maybe. Do you need a line of credit for future care needs? I'll tell you, most people do. Or in case something happens, maybe the water heater goes out, maybe the roof has a leak. Have a growing safety net that's just easy access to your equity. Do you have some debt you want to pay off? You know, credit cards are what, like 29, 30% interest rates?
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's terrible. And you just get on this treadmill.
Right.
Make that go away.
Especially if you're a senior, you don't have the income to take care of that 29%.
Yes, yes. And it's all about cash flow. So people talk about, well, does it make sense overall? Does it get you cash flow through your retirement and then leave your heirs something near or maybe more what you want? And if you can meet all those markers, a reverse mortgage is a fantastic fit. It's a fit for a lot more people than people think it is.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of the work that I do, obviously, is with seniors who are looking to maybe downsize and move into a smaller home or a senior community. Some people, they want to age in place, and they don't want to do that. And if you're aging in place and you need to modify your home, reverse mortgage can help pay for some of those things too. So you talk about the water heater and the roof, but also ramps and grab bars and things like that. So it can really set you up for success to age in place until you can't.
Absolutely. And we're seeing things like mini elevators put into, 2,000 square foot homes getting elevators now.
Right.
For that exact reason.
Yeah.
And that was, you asked how I got into this. That was one of the things that really struck me. My grandfather, he passed when I was 17. Reverse mortgages were not at all a thing back then, and my grandpa didn't ask anybody for advice anyhow. He was a very proud old Hungarian man.
Okay.
So what my grandfather did was he ended up moving in his older age, and he was in his 70s, moving apartment to apartment to apartment, instead of staying put in the home that he knew well. Well, after a few different moves, at some point, we think what happened was he was going to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and the new layout, he tripped on a table that wasn't there in the last place. He was on the floor for 3 days before anybody got to him. He actually had moss growing on his teeth, but he was breathing.
Oh my gosh.
But the next 6 months were just absolute hell. It was just absolute hell for him, for the family. He was in a halo neck brace and in a care facility. He was very, very upset. And it was just a really eye-opening experience of like, this is not how he wanted the end of his life to go. It's not how I don't think anyone wants the end of their life to go.
Right.
So how could we have avoided this? When I did my first reverse mortgage, I realized, my grandfather had been able to stay in his home, he'd still be here today.
Right. Yeah. The HECM, the reverse for purchase, is a great option for people who are buying a home. Talk about that.
Oh my goodness. So HECM for Purchase is a really cool product, and it only came about in 2011, so nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
In terms of mortgages, it's a newborn. HECM for Purchase is really cool, and we just got an enhancement this year. In the past, if you've looked at this, and I know you have, we weren't able to do seller concessions, which was kind of a drawback. And so the HECM for Purchase now allows for that. So now it is very competitive with any other loan out there.
Great.
What it does is it works similar to a reverse mortgage, right? The difference between a regular mortgage and a reverse mortgage is that you have a required payment versus that you don't. So with a reverse purchase, you put somewhere between 30 to 70% down, depending on your age, depending on the property value, depending on the program you're using. So everybody's gonna have a very specific number. Another reason to talk to an expert. You wanna get your specific number. And what that does is you can buy a home, let's say the reverse covered 50%. You put the other 50% down, but now you don't have a mortgage payment. So for realtors, this is a huge thing, because how many couples have you talked to where they, let's say it's an $800,000 property, the mortgage balance is $400,000, and they go, well, we can't sell and pay cash $400,000 and live in something we want to live in.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now what if we just bought another $800,000, but it was more suited for you? Maybe 2-story down to 1-story. What if instead we bought $600,000 and now you pocketed $100,000 and you still don't have a mortgage payment? So it's a way to finance a new purchase without incurring a new mortgage payment, which is pretty much all the retirement advice, right?
Right.
They say don't have a mortgage in retirement. Why? So that you don't have a mortgage payment.
Right.
So this achieves that goal as well without having to use such a huge chunk of your cash and stuff it away in the walls of a house.
Well, and a lot of people they say, I want to pay cash for a home. Well, instead of paying full cash, put down 50%, save the other cash, put it away in investments, a safe investment or whatever, or, start gifting it to your loved ones or whatever. But it gives you so many more options. Reverse mortgages, it's so much better than it used to be, and such good options there. Christina is the expert for sure, so you want to talk to her. Her information is on screen. You can give her a call, send her an email with any questions you might have. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast channel, you obviously can't see it, but it is in the caption below. So definitely reach out to Christina. She is the expert on reverse mortgage. Christina, thank you so much for joining me today and helping educate my audience on reverse mortgage.
Thank you for having me. This has been awesome.
You got it.